All right. Hello, world. We're back with another set of the Truthfire Journal series. And again, we're going to be covering the bubbles we've been doing for a while because we're about a third to a midway point in some of them. Some will take a little longer. We'll be doing fitness, basketball, STEM, tennis, modeling, music, and U.S. politics. All right. I am Naiji Coach. I have with me Naiji Glenn, and we'll be covering fitness and basketball. All right, Glenn, I didn't get a chance to read the samples you sent over yet, but I did gather them, grab them all. Some of them are limited media, but most of them I got pictures from and put them in the collage, so I'll be reading them and have some ready for next time. But for this session, there was only 13 samples left before the new samples you sent in. So pretty much today, we'll clear out all those, and then it'll be on the ones that you sent over going forward. Sound good?
Sure. Sounds good.
All righty. So I like the sort of sampler center, by the way. Some interesting cross sections there. And I was thinking maybe we might want to call this bubble health and fitness in order to kind of maybe
sure. Yeah.
That seems to capture a bit more of what we're doing.
Yeah. Right, there's lots of like fuzzy areas where things overlap.
Yeah, like with medicine and so forth. I think I'd kind of like to include that. It does seem very, very relevant. So the direction you're going to sample seemed good. So I think we'll call it health and fitness. All right. So here we go. Screen sharing. Boom. You see that, Glenn? Glenn, you able to see that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think I might have audio issues or something.
No worries. All right. So this first one up is actually an interesting case because it's an anomaly. We have Vaiji Billy Blanks Jr. I don't know if you're familiar with his dad, Billy Blanks.
Yeah, he's a G9, right?
G-Vi, actually. He's an upgraded G-Vi.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually part of the purification I'm doing. But this bubble actually helped allow that. A lot of the bodybuilders that we looked at and just some of the general G-Vi vloggers that you put forward helped me see that Billy Blanks is actually a G-Vi, not G9. But his son, I've been looking at him. He just, I mean, he seems much more like a Vaiji to me. Either that, he's a very lean-faced G-Vi. But right now, I think I'm seeing Vaiji, which would make him an anomaly.
Those eyes, they look kind of interesting, don't they?
They do. I'm trying to take that in.
Yeah.
We take,
but yeah, Vaiji, I think I can.
Here, take a quick look if you want on some pictures. But he's got the leaner look all around in his face, his body, his joints. Here's a little spread for us. That link real quick, just some general pictures.
Sure. Yeah. Like he's much more. He keeps himself a lot more leaner, but yeah, I think there might definitely be a physiological quality there too as well. Smaller joints and yeah.
And the eyes seem to pop out more to me. In fact, he kind of has that slightly crazy knee look that you see a bit with the Vi Alpha.
It's an interesting case. Yeah.
Like this one right here. Like if I didn't know he was Billy Blank's son, this picture right here, I mean, looks like a lot of the other Vaiji. Here's a link. You see that link?
Yeah, it's just coming up. Looks like
he's standing there with the female. They're both in red. I don't like it. The link's not coming through. It's annoying. Let me try this again.
Oh, I think I found it though. Yeah, he's looking at her and she's looking at the camera.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the way he's looking at me, that looks a lot like a Jez Hunter to me.
Interesting.
And then here, yeah. So I definitely will flag him for looking at again later. It's always good in these kind of interesting cases to look at them again because Charlene and I will be doing families, so I'll touch them again. But right now, I believe I'm seeing Vaiji.
Right. Yeah.
But it's always fun, the anomalies, because they make you really have to crunch your lens, and you have to like really like, because the statistical probability, you have to like, no, I know it's really likely he's a G-Vi, but I'm not seeing that. right, this is yours.
This is Jivai Jojo Niforo. Niforo. He's a bodybuilder.
Number 3. Classic age, Jivai Reg Park, old school bodybuilding champion.
You were able to find media on these people?
What's that?
You were able to find good media on them, like video
footage?
Well,
that's the things with the bubble readings we talked about is one of the benefits is as you get deeper into it, you can sometimes work with less media if they are sort of a classic example. He's one that actually just on that I had listed as limited media previously, but now working with so many of these bodybuilders, he's reminded me of several of them.
Yeah, so you can like,
ripping because ripping's really strong with pictures. So if I have enough riffing power, I can sometimes do it. But yeah, previously I didn't have enough riffing power and there wasn't enough video, so I didn't do it. But he looks like a Jivai to me from the ones we've seen so far.
Yeah. It's sort of like Sudoku, right? I mean, as you do more and more numbers into the thing, then you kind of like are able to predict the other numbers. That's kind of like how I think the riffing works.
Yeah, predicting numbers, and also riffing can work with less patterns, sort of like maybe this is what you're talking about. I'm not sure, but like trying to figure out constellations or things in the night sky. If you've tracked enough of the patterns, you can sometimes see partial patterns, and you're like, okay, I know what that is because it's so reminiscent of the other patterns in this part of the galaxy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's basically it. You've pretty much gotten all this other stuff, and the overall leaning is like towards a certain direction. So you can be like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is where things are going.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I wasn't planning on having that, which is really, really cool. In fact, I wasn't planning on doing bubble reading. I didn't even know I could even read that many. But it can be done if you do it the right way. And there's some really cool perks with this. Say it again, Sudoku?
Sudoku?
Sudoku, yeah, that phenomenon really comes into play when you do bubble reading, which is really great.
Another one is like Minesweeper. It's another little game that play.
That's classic, right? I've heard that. That's a classic game, isn't it?
Yeah. They're both kind of classic games that people play. This is a Jivai Bill Pearl, another bodybuilder.
Golden Age era.
Golden Age, and I think there's a Silver Age too. I think.
Yeah, you're right. Ooh, that's a good point. He would probably be Silver Age, and I think Reg Park would be Golden Age. He's even older era, black and white era.
It's kind of similar to like comics, right?
Right, exactly. Jivai Sean Roden, bodybuilder. Now this bodybuilder kind of riff here has been quite helpful for me with acting. Because this he's a Jivai, but he has a bit more of a leaner, more elegant face than some of the Jivai have, and that tends to be more the case with the Jivai actors. So there are a couple that certification I've been turning over because of these bodybuilders, which has been great. All
right. This is Vaiji David Seek.
Fitness expert. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not familiar with him at all, actually. But he seems, I can totally see how he's a Vaiji, though. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, I probably grabbed him then from when I was reading other ones of yours. Like I try to grab things in the sidebar that show up.
Yeah, you try to get them all, but there's always something.
There's always more.
There's always someone, yeah.
Okay. This guy, Jivai Mark Sasan, fitness author and blogger and former distance runner. Interesting. Because usually with the distance runners, they've been Xi V and Vi Z. They've been subpracs. So that's the first really pilot distance runner I'm aware of. Because even like the Jinai, for example, and the Nai Ji that are prevalent, they do well in track and field. They tend to do more sprinting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is Jivai Fred Smalls, another bodybuilder. Kind of ironic name, I think.
Right? He's like, no one will call me small again. Don't say it as you need to, sir. I understand. All right. Jibai Helmut Strebel, bodybuilder and male fitness model. Now, he was a little more challenging for me just because as he got older, he got a little more gaunt looking. So I had to make sure I wasn't looking at a Vi G, but I think he's just a bit more of a more chiseled pilot.
Yeah, I added him as one of my. I think I was one that requested him. He goes really lean.
He kind of reminds me of another lean one that I believe the G Vibe is lean is the Frank Zane. He's a big name.
Yeah.
In bodybuilding.
Yeah. I'm familiar with him as well. He's also, I think, the golden era kind of bodybuilding. Yeah.
The Arnold era.
Yeah. All right, this is Jibai Branch Warren, another bodybuilder. He seems to be on the left, picture on the left, like he's dressed up in a suit and tie, like he's at some kind of like an acting event or something.
Yeah, could be. And whenever I can, a lot of times the bodybuilders, I can't do it. But for all of them, the athletes for basketball and these fitness, if I see them in like normal clothes, I always go over those first. But a lot of times you can't get them with a shirt on.
Oh, I see. Because they're more, I think, more easier to get when they're more familiar. I would think, right, because of the clothing.
Yeah, it makes it less obvious what their occupation is. I try not to make the occupation obvious, but sometimes it's challenging. You know, for example, like certain politicians, they're like always in a suit. If I can get them a picture where they're not in a suit, I try to get that. And same with these athletes.
Yeah, I could see how that could work. It would make sense.
Like here, I was able to get him a shirt on both times. Jibai Rolly Winkler. He looks happy.
Yeah, he's cool. It looks cool.
There's a lot of warmth coming off him. I still see that kind of concerned quality, but the warmth, it's like warm concern. It's nice.
Yeah, no teeth, but still happy looking.
That's a good point. Yeah, just hide that.
All right, this is Jibai Dennis Wolf, another bodybuilder.
And last one. Boom. Jibai Jenna Wolf, fitness expert. That's interesting because a lot of these lady ones have been adaptives, like Vizai and Jai V, but we do get some Jibai in the mix there. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, I think she's the second one that we have now, right?
Might be. You might better than I am. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think last time we covered once before, forget her name. I think she was one that I requested. Yeah, and now, but there's another one now here too, Jenna Wolf.
A little bit of trend there. I can see that though, because if you look at some of the Jibai, for example, actresses, a lot of them tend to sometimes have dance backgrounds and are more fitness conscious than some other mojos are. Alrighty, so that clears up all the fitness we had prior to what you sent over. So next week we'll start diving into those. And I've already gathered pictures for most of them, so now I'll start reading them, cracking them out. Alrighty.
Do we have any basketball samples, or?
We do. We have a bunch of basketball samples. In fact, I'm trying to bring a bit more than I have previously. We may have to go a little fast. I brought like 20 of them or so, and that's because I've been clocking out how many samples we have for basketball. It's quite a few. I'd like to clear it before we get to football. I'd like to have ourselves all clear with basketball so we can totally focus on football for the football season, which I believe starts in November. Alrighty, cool. Basketball, here we go.
Yeah, one sport at a time, I guess, right?
Indeed.
Completely master one thing.
For sure.
Before moving on.
And basketball, we'll be doing football, but one of these basketballs, I pretty much got almost everyone in there because the rosters are smaller, including the ladies. I don't have them this time, but next few weeks I'll also have some female basketball players. All right, here we go. Open that up. And there. You see it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, first one to me. As usual, lots of Zy V, but there are some other things there as well. Zy V Rudy Gobert.
This is an interesting dynamic. Jibai, there's lots of Jibai in bodybuilding. Zy V, there's lots of Zy V in basketball. And they're both, I believe, the exact opposite in terms of like their hierarchical power ranking.
Yeah, they're pretty opposite. It's true, and there
Yeah.
are actually there is some crossover that's been helpful. Not so much with Zyvi going to bodybuilding, but there are a few. They're rare. There are a few Jivi in basketball, and working the fitness bubble with you has really helped me be able to spot those. I got like maybe 4 or 5 so far. So rare, but they're in there. And I think if I wasn't working the fitness bubble, getting that lens stronger, it would be more challenging to see them because they're kind of in a sea of Zyv.
Yeah, and G9 too, right?
And G9 too, exactly. It's easy to mistake them for one of the more prominent mojos.
I think one of the Kardashian
Chris Hutchison and
people were.
I may have like three or maybe 4 more. Are those you?
All right, this is Zyvi Danny Green, another pro basketball player.
Classic here. Zyvi Devin Harris, and he's a little more challenging because he's got a wider face and also wider, a bit rounder. But I think that's
I was just noticing. The eyes, they look veiled. That's what kind of stands out to me.
Yeah, the veiled.
Even though they are big.
Yeah, agreed.
And the localization in the mouth. Yeah.
Those 2 things hit me too, kind of overwhelm the others. But once we get this all in, Glenn, we will go through the entire thing and see if anything tickles us. And we'll do like a basketball specific purification before we share it with the team.
Yeah. But I also feel like I'm seeing the Unifield face with him as well.
Yeah, I think so too. But cool thing is once we actually kind of like put all the samples up, there's gonna be like 700 of them total. We'll have a pretty good basketball lens. We can kind of go back from the beginning and just go through everything with that super strong lens we'll have.
Mm-hmm. Is this me?
You'll do evens.
Okay, Zyvi Tobias Harris. Yeah, again, I'm seeing the eyes. He's got another wide face. He kind of makes me think maybe he could be like a G9 or something, but he's got the wide eyes that look like they're hooded, and particularly they look unflappable to me. And he doesn't seem to be emoting very high.
Yeah, he just has kind of just
very zen-like.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of just sort of at peace.
Almost like he's gonna fall asleep, but no.
Yeah, you're totally like chilly sleepy. Like the Jai Alp have the warm sleepy, and they have like a chilly sleepy. This is Zyvi Gordon Hayward. With him, this riff here, when we get all the way through, I'd like to go back and do a pass to make sure we're not missing any Vi-Z. There are some Vi-Z in there, and they can be very easy to mistake for Zyvi since that's the other subprac is so populous. But there are some Vi-Z in there.
Yeah, I could see why you would think he might be, or you might be considering that for him a little bit.
So I definitely want to look at him again. I think I've seen Zyvi now, but a second look later would be nice.
Totally. All right, Zyvi John Henson, another pro basketball player.
Zyvi Mario Hezanja. He's another one. I don't know what it is. Maybe we'll make sure he's not at Vi-Z later. Definitely, definitely think of subprac.
Yeah. I kind of see what you're saying. He seems a little bit like he's got tensioning, doesn't he?
A little more, tauter. Not quite as sleepy as some of the others IV.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Zyvi George Hill. He's got a good V there.
He does. Zyvi Jordan Hill. And it's a silly kind of prejudice, but I you have to know these things about yourself for fifth gear, is I have to watch out for these Zyvi who have more like the wild hair and kind of like that pharaoh look, not to think that they're one of the Durhams. I believe I'm seeing localized G. It's one of those things. Everyone has their little things. And I just noticed that for myself. Like sometimes I see the wild hair and I have to like, wait, hold up.
Yeah, there's sometimes like the really clean cut Naiji. Then there's also the Jinai that you mentioned with the beard. I know that there's one Naiji that has the beard. I forget his name.
Pardon?
And then, yeah. That's who it is. And yeah, this guy with the dreads. I mean, it's kind of interesting. You think that he could be a Durham, but I was thinking that too. He's also got the wider face too, kind of. But Zyvi is what it is.
It does look? I think it looks hooded and
localized.
Yeah, it looks like. I think it's localized. There definitely is something as far as style, though. Like in most of sports, basketball and football, and even some in baseball too, is that the Durans, particularly actually the G9, like the dreads. I don't know what that is. Other than we have noted that the G Alpha, both male and females, tend to have a preference for a mane of hair.
Yeah. All right, Zyvi Rodney Hood.
He's fairly classic.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah. Elongated face.
Yeah, it has that thing too where the Zyni and the Zyvi, where they have the good G. There's a lot of action in the mouth. It looks like a small trumpet. Do you know what I mean? Because it flares out strongly, but in that small area.
Yeah. It kind of pops out in an.
Right, it kind of pops out forward rather than up. It's like the more the more energy they give it, since it doesn't go up the face, it kind of like makes it like protrude out like a little trumpet or something. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, it works really well because the rest of the face is all muted, but then the mouth area is like it's getting all the attention with the G, and that contrast creates that impression, I guess, fifth gear wise, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, with like a G Alpha, it's sort of like their entire face is always just on, so it just feels more normal. All the little variations from top to bottom, but for the Xi Alpha, it's sort of like mute, and then boom, you know.
Definitely, I'm more familiar with it with the Zyni, but now getting into basketball, we're getting a lot more Zyvi, so it's cool to see the same phenomenon crosses over there. Both Xi Alpha.
Is mine?
Yes, it is.
All right, Zyvi Brandon Jennings.
It's got a sleeve. Yeah, same thing here. I had to make sure I wasn't looking at a Naiji, and we'll anything like that tickles next. When we get this done, we'll make sure we pull them for a purification. But right now, I'm gonna go soft read Zyvi. But yeah, a little something.
There's a little bit of an attitude, right, with the earring attitude, and then the necklace.
Attached quality too. So I think
what was that?
Zyvi with strong Nai, but it would be good to look at his case again.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely worth revisiting. Naiji Stanley Johnson. Hey, Naiji getting the mix.
Yeah, you could totally see the difference in emoting there. It seems much more natural for the Naiji.
Sure, more, yeah. There's he's friendly looking, but there's like a natural, more aggressive energy.
Yeah.
He looks like it's in a fun-loving way, but it is just naturally a little more. Not this at peace quality they have.
Yeah, more like trying to get something done, I guess. This is Zyvi Terrence Jones.
Yeah, kind of like that. I kind of feel them like pulling on a leash a bit. Generally, directives have that quality. Even though like being chilled, you can kind of feel like the engine wants to go forward. Okay, ground. Zyvi Frank Kaminsky III. There we go. That's pretty classic.
The third kind of makes me think of like Vizy, but I think he's a Zyvi. I think he's a Zyvi.
Pretty sheer, yeah.
Yeah. He's got an interesting quality to his face.
It does. It's actually quite captivating. I don't think they do it as much because its modeling is more favored for females, but it does have that same thing that for the females, where it's very striking. The eyes are there, clear. The mouth, it's got a little, G trumpet, and then sheer, nice clean sheer. Very dramatic.
Mm-hmm. All right, Zyvi Enes Kanter, another basketball player.
He's pretty classic, but I'll tell you the funny thing. This picture on the left, just briefly, it looked like a character Sacha Baron Cohen was imitating.
Oh yeah, I was thinking there's something about him that's hitting me weird, like interestingly.
But I'm like, no, yeah. I'm gonna speak the sheer and everything, but that mustache is just. It's funny. Facial hair can really be quite a factor. You have to look through.
Mm-hmm.
IV Brandon Knight. He's one I definitely want to take a look at again too. You know what? I'm gonna take him out. Put him back in again because I'm not sure about him. Now I'm looking at him.
Oh, okay.
All right, this is you.
All right, Zyvi Jeremy Lamb, another basketball player. He's got like the eyes that look popped out. They look hooded to me.
They look what?
They definitely look very. They look hooded, yeah. And they look very veiled, like with unflappable to them. Even though on the picture on the right, and even on the left, actually, he's got a little bit like a nigh, like he's frustrated trying to understand something, but it's overwhelmingly unflappable.
Agreed. IV Zach Levine. Got a little bit of trumpet action. Sheer.
Ah, yeah. Pucker, right?
Right.
He's got a bit of a pucker.
Trumpet pucker.
Levine with a capital V. I like that.
That's right. Stand out.
Nige Damian Lillard, another pro basketball player. Another Nige.
Represent.
Representing the Niges.
Zyvi Robin Lopez. Here's another one I had to look at a little bit just because of the hair.
Yeah.
It's funny because you take with the hair, he's pretty classic, but the hair and that goatee.
I think some of the Zyvi may look at the G9 and kind of get ideas.
I think so. And then also, perhaps this is speculation, but maybe that styling is part of the Durham compound as far as looking maybe feral, aggressive, predatory, and maybe being in a sport, the competition nature of it, maybe they are going to accent that modulation compound. You know what I mean? Because being unflappable and the V obviously very, very helpful in the sport, but so is, personal competitive nature, an animalistic, drive to win. So maybe they're playing up their modulation a bit also.
Yeah, any mojo that's going to be developing their powers, they're going to have to work on them, and that's going to get the shades more interestingly used and stuff like that. I know that Nige and G9 also use their Zion, their V interestingly, and sort of like fetish on it and that sort of thing. Yeah,
definitely depending what sport they're in. Although I think your idea of the Durham, maybe they're emulating that to some degree, might be true because you don't see this much feral styling in tennis, and that's got a lot of Zyvi, and it's a very competitive sport also. But also it could be the culture too. Tennis tends to be a more clean cut culture for the sport.
Mm-hmm. Zyvi Wesley Matthews. I almost thought that he was going to be a Durham.
Yeah, actually, for me, I went the other direction. But I think I see what you're saying. I actually was wondering if he might be a V-Zy because he seems a little more up in some of
okay.
Yeah, we'll look at him again.
I think, that makes sense.
But all these ones that tickle, we'll definitely give a second gander at. All right, last two. Nige CJ McCullum. And the last one is to you.
All All right, this is Zyvie Mitch McGarry, another pro basketball player.
And he's another one I want to look at again to see if I'm not looking at maybe a VZ. I think it's IV, but my familiarity with the VZ in basketball is not as strong. So later on, I'd like to come back. All right, yeah. Boom. So while we wait for Bruno to come on, we can talk about the NBA Finals.
Sure.
So currently, the Warriors, they were up 3-1, but now the Cavaliers have won another game. So now it's 3-2, so it's actually getting a bit competitive. Now, historically, they said that VZ loves historical stuff. I'm actually enjoying the commentary from the VZ because they get very excited. You know, I'm more used to say like VZ in politics and things of that nature, but the sports announcers, they use a lot of knee and jai. They're like, oh, that is an incredible moment. I hope people realize what a historic moment they have the privilege of watching right now. I'm like, okay, man, thank you. I appreciate this moment a bit more. And one thing is that no team has ever come back from a 3-1 deficit in the finals. So if the Cavaliers were to do that, that would be historic. However, since me and John Lee are rooting for the Warriors, we're hoping for a non-historic moment.
Yeah, the history will not be made today.
we hope not. So some interesting little anecdotes for you is, let's see here, make it the other collage that has the teams. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the Warriors. Okay, so the Warriors have couple things going on. One is that this guy, Andrew Bogut, he injured his knee, almost like he got knee barred, like his leg got stuck in the ground. And another guy, another team like fell on his knee. It looked really bad. So I don't know if he'll be back or not, but he was out of the last game that they lost at the second half, and it really hurt them. And I'm learning a little more how it works, because you tend to notice the people who score the shots more. At least I do. I mean, because I don't have a great familiarity with the game, but he plays center a lot, and he's really tall, and so they use him to be like a central, almost like hub, to pass the ball back and forth until the other team gets confused, and then once they get confused, then the shooters make their hits. So the shooters did not look as impressive in this last game when Bogut had to leave being injured because they couldn't get the positioning. So it's kind of cool. You kind of, I mean, it sucks he had to injured, but you kind of see how important it is to have the center and a good one. Otherwise, you won't be setting up the shots very well.
Yeah, I would think that obviously there's a lot of, like the team members, they need each other in that way to rely on each other's skills. And if any one of the pieces of the puzzle are not there, then
for sure
it creates to be happening.
Definitely.
Other members need to sort of like pick up the slack of where that one member was really
definitely
definitive.
And I'm sure there's a lot more to being a center than I understand right now. But one thing which is kind of obvious is these centers tend to be really tall. I think he's like 7 foot, this guy, and so not having a super tall person, because sometimes like the shooters will try to set up shots and then they get really attacked and they get like just kind of shut down. They'll just like throw the ball up in the air over to where the center is, and he just like reaches up his like ginormous arm length and catch it in the air. And so whenever they kind of like get a little bit oppressed, they kind of like bail out by throwing it to the center. But now they can't do that. And then another guy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, Bruno's here.
Oh, okay, cool. But anyway, that was fun talking there, Glenn. And tonight there is the next game in the series. So the Cavaliers will either continue their historic comeback, we hope not, or it'll be the final nail in the coffin, Warriors winning. That's what we hope for.
Right.
Alrighty. I'll see you next time, and we'll get into some more fitness and basketball.
Cool. So, what was that?
I said I'll see you for tonight, but the next time we'll start getting those new fitness samples you sent over.
All right, cool. All right, then. I'll see you guys later then.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Hi, Bruno.
Coach.
Are you ready? I'm joined by Nijai Bruno. He and I will be doing modeling and music. Dun, dun, dun. Whew. And next few weeks, I'll want to have some sessions with you off camera, separate from these, to kind of go through what I've been finding in the music, kind of mind meld with you on that. It's been intense, sir. But
I'm really curious. I'm dying to know.
all right, so I figure we'll start with modeling. Let me know if you see this.
Yes.
And with modeling, I'm still also, the two bubbles I'm working with you are actually really, really challenging. The music for a whole variety of reasons, and then the modeling has been quite challenging, telling apart the Jinai, Zai, Ni, and Nai Ji. So particularly the fashion, high fashion models. The swimsuit models and fitness models have been a bit easier for me, but those ones have been more challenging. So I'm still working on my way through that. So this week I have more V Mojo models because I was feeling a little more confident with those. Alrighty. First one up, Bezai Marilyn Cole. Classic Cheshire with the clear eyes. And you're seeing this, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
This one's yours.
Zaini Megan Collison.
Bezai Kimberly Conrad. Although, like I said, I think maybe when this modeling bubble gets built up more, I think we may have more than enough samples in modeling without including like Playboy Playmates. So I may make these Playmate models part of an adult entertainment bubble instead. But right now, they're okay. Real quick here, with her, she has the clear eyes, but she got a good amount of eye going on there as well, so it's not as easy to tell her apart, say, from a knees out that way. But one thing that really helps is that skin texture between the V Mojos and the Ni Mojos. There's some of the skin texture, which is she has a nice skin, but it just looks different than a Ni's eye.
Yeah,
I don't like the word plasticky, but I'm trying to find a word.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like maybe it looks a little bit like plastic surgery. Not that she's necessarily had it. It just looks a little more like tight.
Yeah, and sometimes another word that comes in, I tend to think more of the Vijay, but it's like more porcelain. When you compare like
Right.
when you compare them to say a Nijai. Interesting.
Right. And it makes sense too. You think of Ves Alpha sort of making those kinds of objects, sort of these grand sort of things that will last through the ages, like porcelain dolls and things like that.
And also porcelain dolls kind of being sort of like an idealized form, and both the Vijay, but I guess the Vijay also, they aspire in their fitness and their clothing and the way they do their makeup and hair to kind of be a living doll in some ways, more so than other Mojos.
Yeah.
The Vijay in particular really tend to kind of go for like a living doll.
Yeah. That makes sense. This was Visai Shirley Cawthorn.
Miss America. Now, one thing, I don't know what this is, Bruno, well, you may speculate, is in modeling in general, way more Vijay than Vizai. But when you get into fitness modeling, the Vizai ratchet up considerably, and that makes sense because Vizai ladies tend to be strong in athletics. But the Vizai ladies are much more prevalent than Vijay ladies in pageants, and I don't have a speculation yet of why that is, but it's definitely a thing. Do you have any thoughts?
Huh.
I would think Vijay ladies would be all over that. And I would think that the Vizai, I mean, just natural, guessing, I'm like trying to think why the Vizai ladies find that so appealing when you don't see them in the other modeling as much.
I guess you have to do a lot of articulation and like talking, not just being on camera, but you have to do a lot of talking, sometimes performing.
Okay.
She really helps.
So you're talking about the ease that they say the Zez gatherers have in macking as compared to the Jez gatherers. That's a good angle. I like that, Bruno. That I really didn't have. I was trying to think what would the angle be. That seems like a likely angle. Aha. East Eye, Rosanna Davison, Miss World 2003. Shire, clear-eyed.
Yeah. Isai, Nina Dalvaluri.
Pageant winner. Ijai Isabel Daza, actress, TV host, and model. That's interesting on that one, because going with what you're saying, which I think is a really good angle, it's interesting on these like sort of like model TV hosts that it tends to be the ad sends. In fact, I think there's more Jivey doing that than Vijay.
Maybe it's a little bit of the comedy playfulness. Like Z really helps with comedy and like sort of clearing the air.
I gotcha. Yeah, because like the Olivia Munn model, for example, is quite popular.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Interesting.
Jaivi Daniela de Jesus.
Signy Ines de la Fassange. It's good G.
Yeah. Almost would look like an IG.
Yeah, I'd look at it for a bit. But overall, she has this kind of like this sort of like up, playful quality in her eyes in almost all the pictures.
Mm. Jaivi Zaya Dehar.
She riffs on someone. I keep trying, every time I see her, I'm like, it's remind me of someone. I can't place it though. She has a very distinct, very dramatic look.
Yeah.
Elongation. All right, last two. Vijay Andrea Del Rosario, actress and model. She seems quite happy. I haven't found too many of them to be famous enough to go after yet, but one thing I've noticed going into sometimes where I can see magazines like mini marts is for car magazines where they have the beauty who's kind of like showing off the car. They tend to be Vizai more than Vijay. Not quite sure what that is, but that seems to be a thing too. But those models haven't been famous enough for me to grab on the internet. Here we go.
Zaini Marine Delu.
Nice. And she has that thing where I was talking to Glenn about with the Xi Alpha, how they had kind of like this trumpet pucker, where they use a lot of their G, it almost kind of protrudes forward like a trumpet instead of traveling up the face.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so 12 new models drop, sir. Nice.
She has a little bit of like a Donald Duck looking thing going.
A little bit. All right, so we'll now go over to music. Let me know if you're seeing this now.
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, Vijay David Foster, Canadian music artist and record producer. He's the husband of Yolanda Foster from Real Housewives. I don't know exactly what he's done, but apparently he's a big shot that's made a lot of people famous. I think he's actually also a music artist himself, but he's more known for being a producer.
Yeah, that really fits with.
I was wondering, are you familiar with him at all? He's supposed to be famous.
No, but that fits with description of Vijay at the top of the music industry a lot.
Sure, I think this is the only one I have in A through F. So let me open up the next music collage, G through K. All right. Are you seeing G through K?
I'm seeing A through F.
Okay. Let me switch. Yours?
Givi Angela Georgiou.
Nice. Yeah, with her, she had a leaner face. I saw Chavez right away, values-based lead and literal, but I had to make sure she wasn't a jive. But I think she's just a more narrow-faced Givi. And the Givi ladies are big. We taught this in theater as part of that opera. Sad, she died recently.
Yeah.
Ziny,
Yeah.
that really messed up. World needs a lot of help right now. All right, next one is yours.
Jonathan Higgs. Naiji Jonathan Higgs.
Charlene introduced me to him. Are you familiar with him?
No. I've heard that name, Everything.
Yeah, he does one song that he introduced me to where he's kind of like playing back his mind, like why things always get messed up. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm trying to be cool, but things just get crazy sometimes. I feel you, buddy. Jai Drew Halcomb. Yeah, it's good because I'm really having to dial in on the Nijai versus Bijai, the eyes difference. I'm stronger with the females right now, but I'm enjoying. Well, it's it's challenging, but I'm really enjoying getting that part of my lens more up to snuff.
Oh, I had a couple that I was going to ask you about. How about Steve Harvey? Have you looked at him? Nijai versus Vijay?
Comedian?
Yeah. Steve, the host, TV show host.
Right. I think he's a Chinese, but I'll look at him again. I'll add him to my.
Okay.
No. I like suggestions. I'll take a look. It's always good because you have experience with mode reading, so I'm curious what you're being tickled by, and being a friend of mine, it's also good motivation for me. I'm like, oh, let me look at that for Bruno, and that gives more juice to do it.
Yeah, there was someone else too. I wanted to ask, but I forget who it is. I also have to be careful. Like I don't want to impose my biases on this because this is like, it will be very easy for me to like look at somebody that I think behaves in a way that I think is not ideal, and then say, oh, he's probably a Vijay.
Yeah, but still, I do like knowing things that tickle you. It's good dialogue to have.
Yeah, I'll try to write it down and send you an email.
Cool. And this one's yours?
Naiji Jamiroquai.
He's famous. I know that name, but I don't really know anything he's done. You?
Yeah, back in the 90s, he did a lot of like 70s throwback kind of music.
Right. I kind of saw him more in like commercials and things like that, his music, but did he ever have like a big hit?
Yeah, he had a couple big hits back in the 90s.
Gotcha. Ejai, Tori Kelly. Pretty classic. Well, every now and then, when they do this big hair mane thing, I had to like just make sure I'm not looking at a G vibe. She's a pretty classic Vijay, but sometimes there's samples that can be tricky. Which obscens you're looking at?
Yeah, I was trying to remember who she reminds me of. Like maybe Demi Lovato.
Yeah.
Can't tell for sure. Vijay L. King.
Something about on the right here, she's plumper, but some of the way she's using her mouth reminds me a little of Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
Not the whole face, but just that mouth expression.
Yeah.
That's squinchy.
Totally see it.
Okay, that must be it for this volume. Last one. Seeing it? Are you seeing a music bubble L through O?
Yes.
Okay, good. Ejai Johnny Mathis. And it's subtle, but one thing I've been also noticing, say, telling apart the Vijay from the Nijai, for the males anyway. It also applies to the females. I'm just not as familiar with the guys, but there's a little more of a nervous quality to them. Not quite as comfortable. The Vijay males, like the Vijay females, although they have shy, so they don't have the aware expression, they do seem a little more comfortable being on camera.
Yeah.
Which ironically makes me feel, as a Naiji, a little more hesitant to interact with them. I find this slight uneasiness that the Nijai have makes me feel more comfortable around them.
Yeah.
I'm angsty too.
Naiji Maxi Jazz.
He's cool. Have you heard any of his stuff?
Yeah, they had a couple big like electronic music hits back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And they're still around.
I like the one, there's Mass Destruction.
Massive Attack?
Mass Destruction. Weapons of Mass Destruction. It basically, like, hatred is a weapon of mass destruction. I like this.
Oh, okay.
Really cool. I like his lyrics a lot. Very soulful. Philosophical. Also,
Yeah, that was.
He has good like rhythm and, like, so he sounds good as a spoken word artist, but you can really hear everything he's saying very clearly, and the stuff he's saying is heavy. I dig it.
Yeah, that was a big thing in the 90s for a while, like with trip hop with Massive Attack and a lot of like the darker electronic acts. Like they did a lot of that kind of stuff back in the 90s.
I like it.
So it was a good time.
Vijay and Akiko Myers. She has a slightly longer face, but I think his eyes are popping a bit much to be a Jaivi. All right, last one is to you, Bruno.
Vijay Home Nemo.
Dengue Fever. I love Dengue Fever. They're awesome. And very unique sound.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we have a few minutes left, which is cool. I was wondering maybe we would take a look. I can't necessarily confirm anything, but it'd be kind of nice to kind of start talking things over. To me, take a look at Pitbull, because he's one I'm currently weighing. One thing I'm looking for, he may be this for me, he may not, which is I'm looking for some anchors, which is once I realize I have something I need to kind of purify or work through, I try to find some samples. I'm like, okay, I think that one might be a classic example of what I'm looking for, and I can use that to compare others to. So right now, he's still up in the air, but I think he might be a Vijay. So let's see if we can find an interview of his. Okay, here's one.
Armando Christian Perez is becoming a global.
13, put
There we
the
go.
glove in there. 14, buckle up. 15, vacation. 16, disruption.
Pitbull grew up in Miami's Little Havana, the son of Cuban immigrants.
Okay, this interview is going to be a bit more of a document style. Let me see. Let's try this one here.
K-T Euphoria.
My life that I love beauty, I protect them. I keep them fucking safe. So therefore, I'm able to enjoy them. So you never know. I gotta be honest. Good, perfect. And it works.
Reminds me maybe a little bit of Cesar Milan.
Say again.
Reminds me a little bit of Cesar Milan, the dog whisperer.
Yes. Okay, I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the reasons I was going with him, because I feel Cesar Milan, I feel pretty good that he's a Vijay, and I was going to use that to try to pull a music artist one and then use that to pull others. That's kind of the route I'm trying to take. Excellent. Okay, cool.
You seen that, didn't you? Yeah, I saw that. I mean, I feel like I'm in an interrogation, so I feel that I have to somehow contain not bother me. I feel like no, that's not gonna happen. Yeah. I'm married to the game. Yeah. Yes. That's great. It's actually the way that we graduated.
Not sure, but I think I may be seeing in the mouth area that slight tensioning difference between the V and the knee, where it's a little more duck lippy, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I guess I can I could see that. I personally am really bad at this kind of V.
No worries.
V perception, but just the energy, just everything about the energy. Like when I think about his music, for example, it's really difficult for me to think of Anijai being so out there, being so comfortable, like dressing the way he does, calling himself Mr. Worldwide. Like if I think of Justin Timberlake, for example, it's so much more like he does a similar type of like suave kind of, you know, swaggery type, almost pseudo swagger, but
Right.
it's or pseudo G kind of pseudo G, I should say. But it's very different. I mean, Justin Timberlake's night and day with this guy.
Nice, cool. But it is what it is. But if I could kind of solidify him, I think he would be a good anchor to help me for the other Vijay. One thing I'd like to see him maybe a little closer up so I could look at those eyes a bit better. Let me see about this one here.
On air, tried Seacrest. Hit. It's funny because in a little epic, you know, sort of movie. Yeah. I wrote, what's your move? Epic. Hoopum.
Like there's a lot of rappers that are Nijai that like I feel really good about, like the Wu-Tang guys, a lot of these more underground guys.
Right.
But they do a really grimy, like really like bedroom kind, like they're almost just like guys that you'd meet like randomly out in the street.
Not as polished looking as this.
Yeah. This is a totally different game.
Those eyes look kind of clear to me. I'm at 120. Trying to find a good perk up. And that skin texture as well has a bit more of that plasticky skin texture. I would find a better word because I want to be complimentary, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. It looks more taut.
So that's basically what it was all about. It just taught you there's no success without failure and there's no win without losing. Yeah. So and since then.
Might be a little fleshy. Let me see. Now, something I'm trying to work with here is it his, say, ethnic background or the street style he's going for? But there's a certain catch in his voice. I know also that the Vijay versus Nijai have an earthier sound of the voice. I'm trying to figure out what of that I'm hearing is maybe Vijay earthy voice versus maybe just his personal, you know, background style. Not sure about that yet.
That's a really good point. Yeah, his voice stood out to me as well. I mean, I don't know about Nijai, but we definitely know a lot of Latin Naiji, and their voices. You know, there is that catch. It sort of drags or slurs a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not. I don't think it's quite like this.
No, it's catching me as earthy. I'm trying to figure out, you know, with my 50 what exact that is, but for me, it's kind of hitting me as earthy, the sound of his voice. All right, look at this other one here. This one looks like it might have some gesturing for us.
When he's like dissociating, when he's like doing channeling, doing worldview, like it looks a lot more like Nye than it does.
It does look more slinky rather than pinched. Good point. Excellent. Hey, Mitchell.
Hey.
Hey, Mitchell.
But Bruno, by the way, thank you. That's very, very helpful. I'm feeling better about the pitbull case, and that'll help give me a nice, strong anchor for the purification I'm doing.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, of the ones that you said, not only was he the first one that came to your mind when we asked a couple weeks back, but he also immediately popped out as somebody that I was having trouble identifying as a niche eye.
Excellent. And when you said the Cesar Milan riff, I was like, cool, because that's exactly why I was trying to use him as an anchor, because I do feel strong about Cesar Milan. Cool. Very, that was very helpful, Bruno. Thank you.
Cool.
Have a wonderful evening, and we'll jam on some more music later.
Cool. You guys too. See you.
Night.
Yep.
All right. I am joined by Naiji Mitchell, and we're doing some tennis and STEM. Dun, dun, dun. All right, let me pull up tennis. There we go. Oh, by the way, Mitchell, I'll actually do it more formally when I show the purification to the team, but you were right about that one lady. You said you thought her eyes looked kind of bright. She is B's eye, not Xi V.
Okay.
See if I can name. Let me see if I can find her. I think this is her. You thought her eyes looked a bit bright, so I made sure I looked at case again, and I think you were correct there.
Awesome. Let's see.
You recognize her?
Yeah. I think I do.
All righty. So, on to
There's V's eye.
tennis. You see that? Tennis?
Yes.
Cool. All righty. Oh, on tennis real quick, for tournaments. So we're all finished up with the French Open. What's the next one coming up?
Wimbledon is in very soon. It's in a week and a half about.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, these are like the two closest together of the Grand Slams. So they're pretty.
And is Wimbledon considered the most prestigious?
Probably. I mean, at this point, they're all pretty equally prestigious, but and they're all worth equal amounts. But Wimbledon is like really very classic. Yeah, like just culturally, Wimbledon is really like the heart of tennis. Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, is there any word on how strong the competition is going to be? Because it seemed like Nadal was injured and Federer is.
Federer, I think, will be back for this. I don't know how he'll be playing. I always hope, because Wimbledon was always Federer's best, so that would be really cool to see him win there like one last time. But or I hope for it every year.
We shall see.
Yeah.
Go Naiji, you can do it.
Yeah, Naiji have dominated the grass throughout history.
Ah, so Wimbledon's grass. That's old school, right?
That's very old school, yeah.
That favors the finesse players the most. That'd be
It
good.
does, exactly.
All right, starting off with Xi Ilya Marchenko. Pretty straightforward.
Xi Paul Henry Matthew. I don't. That's better.
What's that?
I said Xi Paul Henry Matthew. I'm familiar with him.
Is he good these days, or was he good in the past?
I don't know if he's that good these days. I can check the rankings, see where he's at, but
Was he ever a top player?
I think he was. Yeah, he was high. He was in the top 25 or so.
Okay.
He's a good player. He's French. Yeah.
Xi Leonardo Mayer. Classic.
He's pretty good. Xi John Millman.
Got some sheer cheeks, even that G going on.
Yeah.
Here.
And you can just see it like throughout his face and his eyes. Just the tower energy.
And one thing I was talking to Glenn about is in basketball, which is also dominated in large part by Xi-V.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Is that
both me and my brother play those sports. More than IG.
It's curious though that the feral Xi-V rip is much more prevalent in basketball than in tennis, and so we were speculating maybe it had to do with seeing that Durams are much more populous in basketball than tennis, and maybe there's some emulation there going on. Because I speculated maybe the competitive nature brought in their directed powers more, but the tennis players are really hyper competitive too. They tend to be more clean cut.
Yeah, I think basketball, it's a little more like directly physical, I think, than tennis. Because, you're kind of getting up in people's face and all that too.
Yeah.
So having that sort of feral aspect's better. Whereas tennis is, it's not that it's not, it's very physical in a way, more like a kind of endurance sort of way, but it's more clean.
Less contact.
There's no contact. They're on the other side of the net.
And then also there's the kind of the general cultural background, because basketball sort of started mainly like as far as I mean,
street sport. Yeah, tennis is like aristocratic.
For sure. I'm curious. I'm going to top of your head. Do you have any idea of the kind of money that's made in tennis playing as opposed to, say, basketball?
I don't. Nowadays, I'm sure they both make a fair amount. I do know, though, just as a separate point, as a tennis player, someone who grew up playing tennis and with people who play basketball, it does take a lot more money to be a tennis player.
Interesting. Why is that?
It's more expensive. Lessons tend to be way more expensive. I don't know why. It's just part of like the culture of the sport. It just costs more money, and I guess that's probably why it's been a barrier for more and more people to enter it.
Gotcha. And I guess they're also
and that's changing now. I think it's getting less and less so as time goes on, but there's still a little bit of that there.
Interesting. Also, basketball, I think, is easier to train by yourself if you don't.
Exactly, for yourself or like a gang of friends. Whereas tennis, you need to have like a serious coach and like learn technique and stuff. I mean, obviously, the best basketball players do too, but
no, I see what you're saying totally. Now, as far as career opportunities in the basketball, there's like 30 teams or so, and they have like 15 people on the roster. I assume they all, I guess, make good money because they're in the NBA. About how many is it? Similar numbers in tennis as far as like slots to be? Because maybe I'm wrong. It seemed like
I don't know how much money, to be honest, like a lower ranked tennis player would make. Obviously, the top few players are ridiculously wealthy, but
yeah, the impression I got from you is that maybe there's like 200 or so players and that are considered tops, and then of those, maybe the top 50 or 100 making.
Yeah, probably. But a lot of those players, like even in the top 50, some of those players might be the best or one of the best players in their entire country. I mean, so they might be more or less well known locally in different areas.
Interesting. Yeah, that brings up tennis is rather small then when you consider how many are considered top flight when it's much more international than basketball is. Interesting.
Like the USA, for example. I mean, the best United States player, I think, like John Isner right now. I mean, he's 17 in the world.
Also, it's a culture as well. I wonder how much I don't really know. How much is there as far as endorsement deals in tennis? Because I know like the famous ones.
Yeah, the ridiculously famous ones have ridiculous endorsements, like Federer with Nike and all that, and Serena. I mean, they make obscene amounts of money. But I don't know about the lesser ones.
All right, Xi-V Lucas Puil. Little feral look going on.
Xi-V Rajiv Ram.
India actually has some good tennis players, don't they?
Yeah.
Is that from a carryover from the colonization, English colony?
Could be. That's an interesting point. Yeah, they definitely have that connection.
I was surprised I found out how many Indian tennis players are.
Britain, yeah. And in fact, yeah, a lot of Indian people play tennis too, just casually.
Zyvi Albert Ramos Vinolas.
Yes.
Use the G bit more than some other ones do.
Whoa.
Yeah, there we go.
She Bobby Riggs, what? I had a funny. I think I told you this before. I know Vaishi played tennis, and can be good because, well, first of all, amongst the women we've seen Vi Alpha, there's a few good Vaishi and males actually. The Brian brothers Vaishi, but besides that, that's Vi Alpha. But there's a STEM sample. Chad Merkin, who's a professor at the university I attend, Northwestern, and he lives around where I live, like a few towns off, and I played his son in tennis, and his son actually beat me really badly. His sons are really, really good. And they were Vaishi, so I'm assuming his son's a Vaishi.
Yeah. Interesting. Because if you think about it, like in paper, I would think have a temperament that would be well suited towards it.
Yeah.
I wonder why I don't see more of them. Perhaps maybe there's not as much of a voice as they'd like to be being a G mojo, or maybe there's not as much money. I'm not sure.
Maybe. Or maybe it's just the physicality of it. It's just more suited to V. I don't know. At the highest levels. But maybe at lower levels there are more Vaishi. Who knows? Yeah,
because I wonder about that because Vaishi don't show up in sports as much as some of the other mojos do, but they definitely show in other fields that they like to dominate. And then in MMA, where they do show up, then they kick ass.
MMA is about as physical as it gets. So.
Yeah, they're all up in there. They're very, very good. So I'm curious. Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
I think that's got to be something more to do with like culture or feeling fulfilled rather than ability. Because like you said, the guy whose son you played, they have talent.
Yeah, and I'm sure Vaishi maybe play college tennis or something. They go to like prestigious universities or something.
And on that, I was surprised the Vaishi didn't show up more in golf. That's mainly dirt pracs. Mm-hmm. I was like, it amazed me. I guess I'm prejudiced. I'm like, golf isn't like a Richie Rich sport, so I kind of figured Vaishi, rich CEOs would be all up in that sport. They probably are.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, just people that have. My dad plays golf a lot. He's really into it, but he's not like. I guess it just takes being a dirt prac to be the best in golf.
It's interesting. All right, Vizai Alexandra Sasnovich. Vizai. By the way, on the basketball, I'm getting also into the female basketball players, and I've been noting a similar trend to tennis.
Same thing, Vizai, yeah.
Vizai ladies are more prevalent than Zyv ladies. Interesting.
That's interesting. Because we had some explanation for what we thought of, some explanation maybe why that was for tennis, which is that maybe just that because women are, and I guess it maybe could apply to basketball, but I think it applies a little more to tennis, is that they're playing on the same size court as the males. So the kind of the physicality, the physicality occasioned by having the first might be more beneficial than it is for the males, whereas having more of the tactical bonus stacking is more important on average.
Right, because the V they have being larger is enough to cover the field. That makes sense. But yeah, we'll have to kind of get a little more sophisticated with our speculations to incorporate.
Yeah, because I remember you mentioned some of that before, like Naiji males. We want to talk about Naiji males versus females. Naiji males tend to have, on average, a bolder game than Naiji females with their G and V.
It's true.
So there's probably something similar going on there. All right, Zyvi Diego Schwartzman.
Yeah, but it's fascinating. It's interesting that trend has a head or another place pops up. All right, last two. Zyvi Duty Sela. Do you happen to know what nationality that is? It's an interesting name.
I think I actually heard of him. Let me look him up really quick. He is an Israeli. I thought so.
Does Israel have a prominent force in tennis?
They have a few good players. I wouldn't say they're super prominent, but
would you say there's some countries that are big countries that don't? Like, for example, is China not into tennis?
China's getting more so. China and the Asian countries are kind of getting more and more into it.
Okay. Last one is yours.
Probably not as, not as big as it is. It's certainly not proportionate that way. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the best tennis players mostly seem like they're Europeans most often, but that hasn't always. I mean, Americans have been good in history.
Right.
Zyvi, Tim Smyshek.
All right.
Yeah, I can't think of too many big countries that don't have, that I, at least off the top of my head, that don't have good players.
All right. That is 12 new tennis samples. And now we move on to STEM. Let me know when you see this.
I see it.
Cool. All right. Hot. Tiny John Mather, Nobel Prize winner in physics. He's pretty upbeat.
Classic. Zenai Maria Mayer, American scientist, explorer, international speaker, anthropologist, and wildlife correspondent for National Geographic.
The longer face, I'd make sure it wasn't a nice Z, but I think it's big mouth, but it's localized.
It's the Z for the females, mostly. I mean, very.
Mostly, yeah, amble really comes through.
All these Z users.
Really interesting that the I've mentioned before, but that the Zenai males and Zini ladies tend to go a very different career direction.
Yeah, we're starting. It seems like we're starting to see like trickle of them, but they're not.
Yeah, but of the different like storylines, I think that's one of the most stark differences between the her and her him storylines. Yeah. But I don't know if we have one more extreme than that, do we?
Yeah, like I don't think so. Yeah, like the hem, hers, and his seems like very like, I don't know, like for the, I guess for the, like just almost like traditional male female sort of stereotypes.
Yeah.
For Zenai males and Zini females, like males, the big business and politics and take charge people, and the Zini females being models and artists and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But for the other one, it's like the basically science.
Yeah, because I would have thought that like say Vajez would be more prone to that, or even say just Vez Alpha. But actually, like the few Vizi ladies that we have so far, they show pretty much like administration and law and the same places the dudes do. That's when you need data to cross-reference with one's intuitions. Nizai Douglas A. Melton, a professor in the natural sciences at Harvard University.
Nizai Hart Michel or Michael, I'm not 100% sure how to say that last one, but Nizai chemist.
Oh, by the way, when you get a chance, we are running a little low on STEM, so if you have more samples to send our way, that'd be great. When you get a chance.
I think I sent you some you haven't read yet.
Okay. Can you resend that to me? I'll make sure I have all those.
Sure.
I went through and tried to find ones that you had suggested that I hadn't done yet, and I couldn't find any. So I think maybe I've missed something.
All right.
Nizai Norman Mineta, co-chair of the Joint Ocean Commission Initiative. I don't know if it is. It sounds impressive.
That is interesting. Joint Ocean Commission.
I'm just guessing maybe. I wonder if that has to do with tracking, like, what are trends as it relates to uniting the whole planet, Pacific and Atlantic.
Joint Ocean Commission initiative brings together all sections of the ocean community to catalyze action and monitor progress toward meaningful ocean policy reform.
Oh, nice. So I was thinking that the angle, maybe it is, would be like big complex patterns. We talked before, like, complex systems, but it sounds like also like an ecological angle, perhaps they're going with there too.
Yeah, that's becoming an increasing issue. Zenai Loretta Napoleoni, macroeconomist.
Zaini Daniel Nocera, professor of energy and chemistry at MIT. He enjoys his job. Good for you.
Zenai Christine Nuslin Volhard, Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. I mean, the Zenai females, I mean, they really show up like in areas where the Zenai male doesn't show up at all. Economics and physiology and medicine.
And also activism a lot too. In writing, for example, like the Zenai males are almost always nonfiction. But I'm working with Maya on authors, and the Zenai ladies show up a lot in fiction writing. Some very fantastical stuff, comedic stuff, human interest stuff. Yeah, it's cool.
Really interesting. Even had like that performance artist once, Zenai.
Yes. Zaini Svante Pabo. He reminds me a little bit of is it Pablo Sotomaki?
What's that?
I think he's a music person that Dima's turned me on to. Not the career, just look at space. So I can find him real quick. There we go. Pavo. This guy. Maybe just me, but he.
What's his name?
This guy.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah.
Someone's mouth area.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
Hi, Jolene. Hey, how's it going?
Go pretty good.
Good.
He was from designing music. Cool. Geneticist.
Yours?
Zaini Saul Perlmutter.
Nobel Prize. Last. 2. Zaini Jonas Salk, actually. Scientist doesn't say what. Let me look at it real quick. Scientist of what? Virologist. All right, and last one is to you.
Zaini Roger Sion, Nobel Prize winner in chemistry.
Yeah, he had a little bit of a broader face. I had to make sure I was looking at a knee's eye. But I think that he is pretty localized. I don't think I've seen the lip plate move much.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, so those were the 12 samples from STEM. While we're waiting for Ben to come on, do you have one you want to suggest? We can take a look at them.
I'll look at the ones that I've listed. Let's see. It's good. You definitely you did read some of them last time. You read quite a few, but not all, I don't think. How about? Let's see if he has media. Actually, all right.
Hey, Charlene, the next NBA Finals on tonight.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, over Darius.
All right. Here is video. Let me just put it into the YouTube app.
Yep, sounds good.
This guy's name's Tony Padilla. He's a physicist. What was that?
Oh, this is some of what I was doing with Bruno. Go ahead.
Oh, oh okay. I was...
Is that him in the purple shirt?
That's it. Yes.
We were just finishing off the calculation. We wanted to show the end of the year. Dark energy as well. Dark energy is really good using calculation.
And in the chat bar, could you type in his name?
Yes.
Couple of the constant problems. So I want to sort of explain what it really is. It's often sort of understated or not explained properly
He's a physicist, and he like does YouTube videos sometimes on this channel, 60 Simples, with a few other physicists.
You think, well, no, it's of course not. But actually, that's not true. Because quantum mechanics, what you find is that little particles essentially will pop in and out. So you can think of them as just popping
Maybe
in.
this isn't the best video.
Is there a video that might have a little more?
Yeah, I was just thinking.
The question is how much. And it turns out an awful lot. You find a huge amount. In fact, there's so much energy that would cause the universe to curve so much it wouldn't even extend as far as the universe. People have tried to come up with models that sort of express the amount of energy that get out. None of them being particularly successful. So then you sort of face in a dilemma. Well, how does the universe?
What I'm seeing so far, it's looking like it might be one of the ad serves.
Yeah.
It's got kind of dancing eyes, the cheeks aren't moving.
And it just counted it off very high huge degree of accuracy. And that, sort of the cancellation and allows you to it's a dimensional number. The thing you throw in or an energy density. The thing you throw in is an energy density.
Did you put that video in?
I have one, yeah. If this one's.
Here we go. Definitely looks localized emoting. And bobble.
It seems like his brighter eyes. Not like I don't feel like predatory energy from his eyes.
No. I'm kind of weighing two things. His emoting seems quite localized to me, but at the same time he's moving around a lot. He has a lot of knee bobble. Hey man.
Hey guys.
Fast forward a few seconds, see his digits.
Sure. Oh, there. What? That's a good digit shot.
All right, Michelle, I'll take a more look at him, and I'll go ahead and confirm what he is. I feel right now, I feel pretty good with ad serve. I just got to dial in on which one it is.
You want to just say so on the forum or something?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Good session, and I will see you next time.
All right. See ya.
See you, Mitchell.
See ya.
All right, I am joined by Naji Ben, and we're going to get into some U.S. politics. Dun dun. Before we start, any news of the week?
Let's see. Well, it's been a couple weeks since I've been here, but so I guess I don't know. I can talk about what's been happening recently.
Going on since last time we talked.
So the nomination is all the contests are over. Hillary Clinton won actually by a very large margin. It wasn't actually all that close because she won California significantly, a couple other states on June 7th significantly, and she also won Washington, D.C. by a significant margin. I would say that the race was kind of, by the media, was made out to be closer than it actually was. But I think that it was, that's a lot what happens, and one of the biases media sources, or especially mainstream sources, have is they want the race to seem close because that makes it more interesting to the readers and viewers and so forth. And after the Republican nomination, there was a significant drop in interest because that was like the most interesting part of the 2016 primaries. What was really interesting about that, though, is on June 7th, after Hillary Clinton officially had got the majority of the pledged delegates, he decided to stay in the race and again reiterated that he would go all the way to the convention. So historically, when a candidate loses, generally it's basically set in stone that they've lost. They generally drop out and endorse the person who is going to win. But he's saying he's going to go all the way to the convention. He's sort of attempting to leave some hope in his campaign. It's possible that he's hoping for like the really small chance that she gets like indicted or something before the nomination. So I don't know. There's a very good chance I think he will still endorse her before then because he's been talking to her campaign and so forth. He talked to President Obama recently, and he's trying to unite them and so forth. And he talked to Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid. So it looks like, and also his tone has changed since the nomination. He stated that he would he would fight alongside Hillary Clinton in defeating Donald Trump. So it seems like he's like he could still endorse her before them, but it's not really clear. He seems to kind of be like have like this inner I think he likely has like an inner conflict on what he wants to do.
Gotcha. So. And, on that, was it Donald Trump finally got the endorsement of that one young Baiji politician?
Oh, Paul Ryan.
Yeah, and then right after he got it, he made more racist comments, and Paul Ryan's like, no.
Yeah, a lot of GOP congressmen and so forth, and Paul Ryan started to backpedal their support of him. So, saying that this is what his comments were unacceptable, but they're still endorsing him.
Right?
So,
How does that work?
Yeah. Another thing that's really interesting is that with the comments he made towards that Mexican judge and so forth, Donald Trump's approval ratings have actually dropped significantly. There was a poll that was released recently that had him at 7 and 10 unfavorable. So 70% unfavorable, 29% favorable. So like his net favorability rating is like negative 41%. So Hillary Clinton's is bad, but that's actually hers has actually stayed consistent. It hasn't really dropped at all. It's like negative 12% net, so that's really bad for Donald Trump because simultaneously we've also been seeing that the poll numbers have been swinging back in Hillary Clinton's favor. She's now, I think, in the Real Clear Politics average up by like 4 points or something. So that's closer to what she was at before Donald Trump clinched the nomination. So it looks like she definitely still is favored to win. Not necessarily by a huge margin. I mean, a few points up in the polling average isn't that it isn't that much of a lead, but it's enough that plus just the general speculation that Donald Trump isn't really going to do very well among minority voters and so forth. She definitely seems favored to win.
And also, he's not doing well, they think, with female voters as well, right?
Oh, what?
He's also not predicted to do well with female voters, right?
Yeah, he also isn't doing very well with women either. Although, yeah, I mean, like with a lot of people, like yeah, self-identified conservative women. I mean, I think he's doing like well enough. Like he's doing actually a pretty good job of rallying Republican voters to his side, like the people who traditionally vote on GOP party lines. Like he's doing quite well with those. He did a pretty good job of unifying those. But the thing is that when it comes to general elections, it's not really about the voters on your side. It's about the independents. It's about the moderates, the people in the middle, basically. Whoever gets the middle, basically always wins. So he's going to need to basically sway everyday people who don't really necessarily know for sure what they're going to vote for ahead of time, which I don't think he's going to do very well with if his approval ratings are that low. He's going to, I think, definitely need to recover his approval ratings if he wants to have a good shot winning this.
I'm curious how I could possibly do that now, because he's basically alienated like everyone.
Yeah, and his, like, the thing is, a lot of the reason his approval ratings are that low is because of like minority voters, like Hispanics and blacks and so forth. Like I think he's doing better than Hillary Clinton among white voters. So the way, like, and I think Mitt Romney was the same way. He did better than Barack Obama among white voters. But I don't think he's going to be able to make a whole lot of ground with Hispanics, for example. So I think his best shot at winning is probably going to be to run up the score in some way with white voters if he's to win. But
it's
so
sad.
It should be an interesting election.
It's sad how many just angry white people just are listening to that crap he's saying. It's embarrassing. Oh, what do you think about Christie as his running mate? Is that who you think?
Yeah, Chris Christie. I think that's one possible running mate. The betting markets, people who bet money on what's most likely going to happen in the race, I think they have like Newt Gingrich favored as far as who's most likely going to be his running mate. But it's still at a time where we don't really. It's still very, very speculative. There isn't like a whole lot of evidence suggesting who he might pick. I think Ben Carson a while ago, he released what his shortlist was, and there was like 6 candidates. I think Christie was on there, Gingrich was on there, Sarah Palin I think was on there. So Rubio and Cruz were on there, So, but yeah, I think he was, that's definitely one possible route.
What about Hillary? Any inkling on what she's going to go with?
Yeah, it looks like the 2 biggest are Tim Kaine and Elizabeth Warren are the two. Are generally the 2 that people are predicting as most likely. And the sum of that is like 50%. So the betting markets say there's like a 50% chance I'll be one of those. But then again, it's really hard to trust betting markets because I mean they're very, very speculative, and they generally give a good idea about generally what's most likely because these are people who are researching and doing their best to make the best predictions they can to make the most money. So generally they're fairly decent, but we'll just have to see. I think her shortlist was revealed recently, and there were several candidates on there: Tim Kaine, Elizabeth Warren, and several others. I can't really remember their names right now.
No worries. Interesting. All right. Well, thank you for the updates on what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Now we'll get into some drops. Let me know if you see this.
All right, I see it.
All right, I'll take odds. You take evens. First up by Z. Bill Pascrell. Telling these politicians apart is quite challenging, but I guess it's part of what we're doing in this bubble. I think when we get to world leaders, it'll be a little easier because we can tell apart by the country at least.
Yeah, that's true. Because a lot of them have the same, sort of tags of like member of U.S. Congress and so forth.
Yeah.
Of course, if more information was on there, it'd be easier to distinguish. But even then, it's like, okay, is this person from Arkansas or are they from New Jersey? It generally doesn't make
district something.
But
Politics. Best sleep aid there is.
Yes. Vaiji Phil Rowe.
That's part of the power. They actually, they count on how complicated it is and how boring it is that people won't pay too much attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely have a lot of experience just like sitting in college lectures, falling asleep, and so forth. It's really funny how stuff that's boring, it's so much easier to sleep to.
Indeed. It's also interesting how things that actually have such a huge influence on the way the world goes are so boring.
Yeah.
You would think they would just be interesting, but they're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess the reason is because it's so slow moving. Like it's, there are some major legislations that get passed, but it happens so infrequently that people just lose interest a lot of the time. Like you'll see things on Facebook, like for example the same-sex marriage ruling. That was like really significant. People had a lot of interest and energy surrounding that, but like. When it comes to more minor things, like someone, like this bill is going to be debated on the floor, and nobody really knows if it's going to go anywhere, but it's going to be debated, and it's going to take several hours. That bores people, so they don't really pay attention until something significant actually happens, and then
Yeah, and then also it's so kind of like the actual debates themselves are kind of so tedious.
Yeah, that's true.
Like even when you see on Colbert or John Oliver, any of those shows, the Daily Show, where they actually have like clips of actual like debates, and these are supposedly fierce debates. The debates put you to sleep.
Yeah. There's a lack of like, I guess, epicness to the debates because they're often very much so. There's just a lot less risk taking. It's much more, it's oftentimes nothing really comes of them. Oftentimes, it takes like many conversations about many intricate details. That nobody really wants to focus too much about. I guess they're not very high level.
And also, whenever you dig in, pretty much any dig into the bill or dig into the politics behind the bill, there's always these other interests that are really driving everything. So you kind of feel not only is it boring, it almost feels a bit like it's just a stage show, and the real show is actually behind the scenes anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. It doesn't feel as much like the real thing.
Indeed.
Yeah, because I mean, like, for example, like something else that happened just yesterday is the Democrats have been filibustering Republican Senate, and they've been doing it on guns, and I think it's in regards to people who are on terrorist watch lists, but I haven't read too much into it. So they spent like 15 hours like talking about just taking turns, Democrats taking turns standing up and talking about guns. But I kind of like. I generally don't like filibusters because I mean it is like a lot of time just like wasted. But at the same time, like if they actively announced, and probably said that this was a filibuster, and and stated very clearly why they were doing it. So I gave me more respect for it, I think.
Yeah.
And also they didn't. I mean, I haven't looked too much into this, but from what I've seen, I didn't hear any reports of them like saying, speaking from like Dr. Seuss books or anything, I'm sure you've heard like Ted Cruz. I think when he was filibustering at one point, like he read from a Dr. Seuss book, like and just started like saying gibberish for a very large period of time.
It's pathetic.
So, yeah.
It's really pathetic actually watching the various gun lobby bought politicians say that these mass shootings are not related to firearms at all.
Yeah.
That it's about jihadists. I'm like, okay, but what about when it was white supremacy? What about when it was just a crazy guy? What about when it was? There's like all these different reasons why mass shootings happen.
Yeah, like we actually have a very.
But the assault rifles, that is a common denominator.
Yeah, like we actually have a very practical way to to address this problem. Whereas jihadists, like people who have very who have very strong beliefs against gay people, that's much harder to address than just changing the legislation on guns.
Exactly. It's all, but it's about the money. That's what it is. Money and the fact that America just has this culture of guns, and that somehow it would just be the end of everything if you were to have less guns.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like just making it harder to get guns makes it be there less guns, but that doesn't really take your ability to get guns away from you. I mean, it's like, the concept of like America being like the land of opportunity. Like opportunity is a word that is very broad and has a lot of vagueness to it. So like when you say like, oh, you're stripping our ability to get guns away, well, it's not really stripping your ability. Like you still have, an opportunity to go and get a gun. It's just there's going to be stricter standards. There's going to be more you have to go through. There's going to be a more rigorous process. You may need to require more training. And so on.
Yeah,
so
I don't see the problem with that. And then also the kind of weapons. Why does anyone need an assault rifle?
yeah.
Doesn't seem really like that's.
I mean, it's like people will say, "Oh, well, if you're a gun hobbyist, like you like to collect guns,
But is the rights of a gun hobbyist, is that above general public safety?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's, and I think you could make it technically possible for someone to acquire an assault rifle. It would just be like, I don't know. I'm like you should. It should definitely require a very rigorous set of standards to do that. The more powerful the weapon, the harder it should be to come by.
That makes sense.
So,
Indeed.
I'm not entirely sure that we should even make them illegal or make them legal at all. I mean, it's like if someone's like, "Well, I'm a nuclear weapon hobbyist." Well,
I was going to say, like, what if you're a bomb hobbyist? I'm like, okay, wait, we can't just
at what point is it okay for someone to be a hobbyist of like any destructive act they want? So it's,
Agreed. All right, here we go. Back to it. Got old school one. FDR. He's 5G. That's yours, Ben?
Oh yeah. Vaji Peter J. Roskam. It's kind of got a very, very smiley sort of. The picture on the left kind of seems like one of those forced smiles, like kind of like.
Hello, citizen.
Like he's trying to be very like happy and affable, but he's kind of he kind of looks like he's just sort of doing that because I don't know.
Supposed to.
Yeah, just strictly because he wants people to just strictly because he wants to hit people a certain way. I don't know.
Yeah. Part of that's obviously we're not IG, but part of it is that politicians do have that issue, because I see by IG in other fields like something like CEOs and scientists and doctors where I don't feel the same way about their smiles. Wow, smiles seem more genuine. Sinai Ileana Ross Latian.
Vaji Dennis A. Ross. Picture on the left is really interesting. It's like he kind of looks almost a gerbil-like. I don't know. I can't really. I mean, it's like a kind of a blocky face, but kind of like a gerbil-like looking face. I don't know. Okay.
Even it's got that kind of sort of pouchy power head.
Yeah.
Look going on. Ross. He kind of looks like he'd be a doctor or something.
Yeah. He looks pretty steely. I think. If I'm not mistaken.
Steely and also a bit academic, maybe.
Yep.
Glasses, but.
Yeah, people with glasses always look more academic. Or maybe not always, but Baiji David Rouser.
It can definitely lead that way to looking at them.
He's kind of got like he's kind of like a Vaiji with a Ted Cruz face, sort of.
Yeah.
Power head, kind of.
Like I said, we'll review all these at the end. We've all played it up. Baiji Lucille Roybal Allard. That's some serious concern on the right there.
Yeah.
Even on the left, when she's smiling, she still looks pretty concerned.
Yeah, it's true. I remember like the Saturday Night Live. I'm not sure if you remember the Saturday Night Live skit that had like all the Republican candidates. Like it was kind of like making fun of one of the debates, and there was like this part of it where like at Carly Fiorina, it was like making fun of her smile, because her smile was like her eyes looked very tight and her mouth was like kind of baleful and kind of downturned looking. So I kind of get that from her a little bit, particularly in the picture on the right.
I can see that.
I mean, it's not like full on baleful, but it's kind of, has a bit of that quality.
Yeah, concerned baleful.
Yeah.
That was yours?
Vaiji Edward Royce. He's kind of got very shiny looking eyes. On the right.
Good amount of knee, actually.
Yeah. Or, yeah.
Baiji Raul Ruiz.
Baiji Bobby L. Rush. Kind of a deep, kind of looks like a deep thinker.
He does. He does. Fans. He looks kind of like a CEO.
Yeah. Kind of has that a very dominant, affable kind of look.
Yeah, exactly. Dominant affable. That's a good way of putting it. On that, the mayors tend to have more, I'd say, obviously dominant energy than the Congress people do.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like if you're the mayor of a town, it's kind of like, I mean, you're kind of like that town's, in a certain way, you're like a tribal champion in a way.
Yeah.
It's like because like you tend to know the people of the town much more personally, like on a human level.
Yeah.
And I think that can often give the, say a Baiji's, G kind of, it can in general make them more, I think, more personable, more in more of a healthy, dominant kind of way, I think.
And also, as far as the power goes, they're not really sharing with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's less size than Congress is.
Yeah, Congress. I mean, you're sharing among the body of Congress, so it's. I wonder, are governors like this at all? I mean,
yeah, governors and mayors, both of them.
Because that makes them more independent as well.
Baiji Mary Salas. Oh no, that was yours. My bad. Good.
Oh yeah, that's all right. Baiji Mary Salas.
She's a mayor too. Chula Vista. Where's Chula Vista anyway? Guess it's southwest. Sinai Linda Sanchez.
Vaiji John Sarbanes. It's kind of like looking up the picture on the right. It makes you wonder, like, what is he thinking about? I don't know.
And you see, I mean, that's like a left check, right? I mean, and concern. That's a classic left. Left check to buy concern.
Yep. Yeah, and he's kind of, I mean, he's kind of leaning his head too towards the right, so some Zai too. Did you mention Zai at all, or?
Oh no, that was good. No, like you did.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's double double chambering, I think. But it's not in the, looking right at you 1,000 yards there. It's more like off into your own thinking space.
It's kind of like he's going heavily into his Vi while weighing it, Zai at the same
Yeah,
time.
because it's interesting. Is that cue like whenever your hand is on like your chin, like you're scratching your chin or you're propping up your head? Does it have to do with positioning and holding up your head like in a certain way? Because it seems like I don't know. Is that a cue that's associated with your hands sort of I guess weighing and connecting to your face, or is that like more specific to scratching your chin and so forth?
The self kind of touching in general tends to be related to adaptive powers, in particular the tower powers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do think you kind of hold your head where it kind of just rests. I do think kind of makes using the tower powers where you kind of are going to resonate with something easier to do.
Mm.
And then also, even more than that, people tend to touch around their eye areas, left or right, when they're actually going to drift or check left or right. People just tend to naturally do that to kind of hide their checks and drifts. They don't even know they're doing it. It's like a subconscious thing.
Interesting.
Baiji Libby Shafe.
She kind of has a like it's almost it's kind of like a bug-eyed look pictured on the left, and I'm getting the sense that it's like a kind of like a bee, you know. It's like, I mean, it's like a drone sort of look, I suppose, like I guess like an insect sort of look. I guess is the impression.
It definitely looks like out of sorts.
Yeah.
But not in a displeasing way.
Yeah, yeah.
It actually, I think it's a pleasant look, but yeah, it looks a bit out of sorts. Baiji and Shakowski. You really see concern with her.
Mm-hmm. She's got really dominant energy.
She does.
Particularly for a lady, like you know, it's not as common to see that with Baiji ladies, I think.
Yeah, and a congresswoman as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sinai Hillary Shive, Mayor of Reno.
Baiji, Kurt Schrader.
He looks like a doctor.
Yeah.
Zenai Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Now she's been in the news recently. What is it she does?
She's the leader of the or the chairwoman of the DNC, Democratic National Committee. There was a pretty big controversy earlier or late last year, and it's sort of you know, people's dislike of her is continued from there. But basically, she's had a pretty bad relationship with Bernie Sanders because something I think the most significant thing that happened was that Bernie Sanders and his campaign complained about the times of the Democratic debates. A very large number of them were scheduled on weekends, and I believe one was like scheduled on like Martin Luther King's Jr.'s birthday. So you know, there was, and there also weren't a lot of them originally. There was a smaller amount than the Republicans.
Right, and when she was asked about why that was, her answers weren't very convincing. Is that right?
Yeah, she didn't. I think she said that. I don't remember exactly what she said, but I think it was something to the effect that they didn't do anything to like. I think she said something to the effect of that their actions didn't in any way cause for candidates to be given less publicity. so the claim that Bernie Sanders' campaign were making was that the debates were scheduled in such a way that someone who wasn't as popular wouldn't be able to be given as much publicity as they otherwise would have if the debates were scheduled at more likely hours. So if they were more regularly scheduled on weekdays, for example.
Yeah, I think she was confronted, like even on the Daily Show, like Trevor Noah, and I think her answers are pretty sketch.
Yeah, and she gave, I think one of her answers, I think she at one point like openly admit. Oh, there's also this controversy with the superdelegates that I read a while ago. The details are a bit foggy, but I think she said that. I think she openly stated that the reason the superdelegates were in place was because of preventing against like insurgent candidates, and I think that's honestly what they are about. Is they're intended to block people like Donald Trump. I'm not sure if Bernie Sanders would be blocked by them, but it was an answer that was really, I think, yeah. I mean, like the fact that like Bernie Sanders was in the race and she like openly admitted that was, so people ended up having particularly on the Bernie Sanders side, having a very negative opinion of her. And there's someone I believe that Bernie Sanders endorsed that's running against her in her seat in Florida. Tim Canova. I don't know if he's been read yet, but he's challenging her in Florida and is trying to win that seat. And Bernie Sanders endorsed her, but she's the chairwoman of the DNC. So Bernie Sanders endorsed her opponent, and she's the chairwoman of the DNC. So that's kind of like symbolically. Shows that he doesn't have a high opinion of the Democratic Party or who's running it. So,
thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah,
I knew there was some controversy swirling around her. All right, last few. That was yours.
Vaji David Schweikert.
And 23. IG Austin Scott.
Whoa. The picture on the right is so like, I mean, I don't really know how to describe it. Like he's
very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a good word. Like that expression is just so like he looks like he needs like someone to put like a warm towel over his head,
Right.
So loosen up. Like he's very like uptight and uncomfortable is my impression.
Agreed. Look, he's been asked some question by interviewer. He's like, ah.
Picture on left, he looks a little better, but still, you can see there's some stuff there.
Still pitch, but yeah, on the right, that's all. All right, last one's yours.
All right, Vaji Bakari Sellers.
Boom. Okay, so 24 more politicians dropped.
Nice.
Nice. All right, that's it for tonight. Do you have anything before we sign off?
No, I think I'm good. Nothing come to mind here, but
Cool.
I'll let you know if anything comes to me.
Nice. All right, so I'll see you on Sunday then.
All right, cool. Thank you, Coach. It's been a good night. See ya.
See ya.